John, it's me.
And?
And I'm calling to tell you how appalled I am.
When people talk about The Sopranos, they usually talk about the violence, the whacking, or the therapy sessions. But some of the most intense moments in the show don't happen with a gun. They happen over the phone. One of the best examples of this is the scene in the episode The Wait.
I love Ginny. I would never say anything like that.
It's not what I heard.
From who, John?
I don't betray confidences, Ralph. Are you denying you said it?
In this conversation, we see Ralph try every trick in the book to save himself, but he ends up losing all his power because he tries to use logic in a world that runs on emotion and respect. To understand why this phone call is so important, you have to look at the context. In the world of the mob, your reputation is everything. Johnny Sack is a scary guy, but the one soft spot he has is his wife, Ginny. He loves her unconditionally, even though she is overweight. Ralph Cifaretto, on the other hand, is a guy who has no filter. He is the kind of person who thinks he is the smartest guy in the room, and that he can talk his way out of anything. He made a really rude joke about Ginny Sack having a 95-pound mole on her ass, and word got back to Johnny. Now, Johnny is furious, not just mad, but ready to kill Ralph. Tony Soprano, who is Ralph's boss, knows that if Ralph admits to the joke, Johnny will have to kill him to save face. So, Tony gives Ralph a simple order: deny it. Do not admit anything. This sets the stage for the phone call. It's a triangular power struggle. Ralph is in the middle, squeezing the phone, with Tony watching him from 2 feet away, and Johnny Sack listening on the other end.
Fuck yes, I'm denying I said it.
I don't believe you.
Just tell me who said this. I'll put a bullet in their fucking eye.
You're a real weasel, you know that?
The scene starts with the setting. Ralph is in the back office of the Bada Bing. It's a small, cluttered room without windows, which makes the whole situation feel claustrophobic. Ralph is sitting down, which already makes him look smaller. This visual setup tells us right away that Ralph is not in control. He's like a kid in the principal's office. When he dials the number, you can see the tension on his face. He is trying to act cool, but he is terrified. Ralph's opening strategy is what you might call fake outrage. As soon as Johnny picks up, Ralph goes on the offensive. This is a classic manipulation tactic called gaslighting. Ralph is trying to make Johnny feel stupid for even believing the rumor. He is trying to act like the victim here. A regular person might back down if someone sounded that offended, but Johnny Sack isn't a regular person. Johnny's power in this scene comes from his absolute refusal to play Ralph's game. He doesn't defend himself. He just repeats that Ralph said the joke. He doesn't need proof because in his mind, the fact that people are talking about it is bad enough.
Look, last year when Tony and I had our thing, that misunderstanding, you were the voice of reason. You were the one that told me to apologize.
The power dynamic shifts when Ralph realizes that his fake anger isn't working. This is where Ralph makes his first big mistake. He stops denying it and tries to appeal to their history. He says, "John, think about it. Last year, who was the voice of reason?" This is Ralph trying to use logic. He thinks that if he reminds Johnny of the favors he did for him in the past, it will cancel out the insult he made in the present. It's a transactional way of looking at the world. But this shows that Ralph doesn't understand Johnny Sack at all. For Johnny, this isn't business. It's personal. It's about his wife's honor. By bringing up the past, Ralph actually looks weaker. It sounds like he is begging. A powerful boss doesn't list the nice things he did. He stands on his authority. Ralph is acting like a salesman trying to close a deal, but Johnny isn't buying. Every time Ralph talks, he digs himself into a deeper hole because he sounds desperate. He's talking too much, and in this world, the person talking the most is usually the one losing.
So you're apologizing?
If that's what it takes.
Why would you apologize? I thought you didn't say it.
The climax of the scene, and the moment Ralph completely loses the power struggle, is the apology. This is the most painful part to watch. Ralph realizes he can't deny his way out, and he can't reason his way out, so he tries to find a middle ground. He says, "If this is what it takes, I'm sorry." The word "if" is doing a lot of work there. It's a conditional apology. Ralph is trying to have it both ways. He wants to apologize to make Johnny happy, but he also wants to keep denying that he actually told the joke. Johnny Sack destroys him for this. He immediately asks, "So you're apologizing?" It's a trap. If Ralph says yes, he admits guilt. If he says no, he's starting the fight all over again. Ralph is cornered. He stammers and says,
"If that's what it takes."
It's weak. It's weasel words. Johnny starts screaming at him, calling him a lying prick. At this moment, the power dynamic is totally vertical. Johnny is at the top, looking down on Ralph. By forcing Ralph to apologize for something he just spent 5 minutes denying, Johnny has humiliated him. He stripped Ralph of his dignity. Even though Ralph didn't technically say, "I did it," the fact that he apologized at all is an admission of weakness.
I didn't say it.
I should have let Tony chop your head off a year ago.
We also have to talk about Tony's role in this. Tony is watching the whole thing, and his face tells a whole story on its own. Tony is the ultimate boss, and he understands power better than anyone. He told Ralph not to apologize. Why? Because Tony knows that once you apologize, you give the other guy leverage over you. An apology is a surrender. When Ralph starts doing his "if that's what it takes" speech, Tony looks disgusted. He isn't disgusted because Ralph lied. He is disgusted because Ralph is being weak. Tony shakes his head and looks away. He sees Ralph crumbling under pressure. This reinforces the theme of the scene scene, Ralph thinks he was being smart by compromising, but in the mafia, compromise is seen as failure. Tony knows that Ralph just made things worse. By apologizing, Ralph validated Johnny's anger. He made Johnny feel justified. If Ralph had just kept saying, "I didn't do it," over and over again, eventually Johnny might have had to give up because he had no proof. But by saying, "Sorry," Ralph gave Johnny the win.
What did I say? No apology.
This scene also highlights the difference between how Ralph and Johnny view themselves. Johnny sees himself as a man of honor, like a knight defending his lady. Ralph sees himself as a businessman who can manipulate people. The problem for Ralph is that honor, even the twisted version of honor they have in the mob, is a stronger force than manipulation. Johnny is willing to go to war over this. He is willing to lose money and risk his life because he believes he is right. Ralph isn't willing to risk anything. He just wants the problem to go away so he can go back to making money. That lack of conviction makes Ralph weak. In a stare down, the guy who was willing to die for his cause will always beat the guy who just wants to make a deal. Furthermore, the language used in the scene is really important. Ralph uses a lot of words. Johnny uses short, violent words. This contrast shows that Ralph is trying to hide behind language, while Johnny is using language as a weapon. It's like Ralph is trying to fence with a foil, and Johnny is swinging a sledgehammer. The sledgehammer wins. Another interesting layer is the code of silence, or omerta. Usually, this code means you don't talk to the police. But here, we see a different kind of code, the code of sticking to your story. Tony values consistency. Even if the story is a lie, you have to stick to it until the end. That is what shows loyalty and strength. Ralph breaks this code by flip-flopping. He goes from "I didn't do it" to "I'm sorry if I did it" in the span of 2 minutes. This makes him look unreliable. In an organization where trust is scarce, being unreliable is a death sentence. By the end of the call, Ralph hasn't just angered Johnny, he has lost Tony's respect too. He is isolated. The scene is also ironic because Ralph is usually the guy who makes people uncomfortable. He is the one who beat a girl to death earlier in the season. He is a violent, chaotic force. But in this scene, he is small and pathetic. It's satisfying for the audience to see the bully get bullied, but it's also tense because we know how dangerous these men are. Watching Ralph squirm is a reminder that there is always a bigger fish. Ralph might be a captain, but compared to Johnny Sack's rage and Tony's authority, he is just a subordinate. In conclusion, the phone call between Ralph and Johnny is a perfect example of how power works in The Sopranos. It's not about who is right or wrong, because they are both criminals. It's about who can hold their ground. Ralph loses because he tries to play both sides. He tries to be the innocent victim and the reasonable negotiator at the same time. He underestimates Johnny Sack's emotional commitment to the issue, and he disobeys Tony's strategic advice. The scene shows that in their world, logic is useless against emotion, and an apology is not a way to make peace, it's a confession of defeat. Ralph hangs up the phone thinking he survived, but the reality is he just proved to everyone in the room that he bends under pressure. And in the mob, if you bend, eventually you break.